And we are live for the flagship run of the podcast of Cable Hogue. My first guest is the one, the only, the legendary Josh Smith. And he's going to be here today to talk to us a little bit about his new first album coming out hopefully pretty soon. Coming out this fall, the journey that it's led him on to make it. And we're going to listen to some tunes. We're going to talk about Ewoks, I would guess. We're going to wish Robert Jolly right now a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, dude.
And, yeah. So, what led you to this point?
Man, that's a good question. I really don't, there's no one particular event or, decision, I guess. It wasn't like I just woke up. Kind of I did. I figured, I got the next few years to work on some of this stuff, and something inside was just like, man, make a run at it, And so I, through some trial and error, have been working on this first album, which in and of itself is a lot of work, but totally worth it and fun. So hopefully by the end of this fall, we've got about 7 tracks done. We'll have them all done because it's kind of a slower pace when you're doing everything yourself.
Yeah. So. What's that been like? Have you got any help from outside influences?
Yeah. Well, yeah. In fact, there have been a few people along the way that are super smart on this kind of stuff that I've been picking the brain of. It's a learning experience for sure. Everybody's got a different way of doing it, So just over the last few months, I've been putting together my own studio stuff, and I guess in my mind, as long as the sound came out okay, and I just literally taken it from interface to interface, this finished product, and I'll play it through computer speakers or play it through vehicles, put it in the truck, and hear out sound, because I'm, if I just play it on the home stereo, the bass is like off the charts. I'm like, oh, I gotta fix this bass. But then you take that out to
a car stereo.
Yeah, exactly.
The bass is completely
different.
different.
Bass, you're right. So it's like, oh man, so it's like I've got those little fail safes, like it's the poor man's, I guess, record making process. But it takes a long time. It's very frustrating when you think you've got something wrapped up that you've been working 3 days on, then you go play it on your iPod and you're like, crap, it sounds like junk. But then again, there's also a point where I think you have to just stop being critical, because you're always going to critique the hell out of your own stuff. You know what I mean? So there is a point where I'm just like, no major fouls, if there's always things I can hear. But when I play it for other people, I don't say anything. Where do you think the problems are? I don't know. It sounded fine. Okay. As long as I can get 5 or 6 people saying it sounds fine, then I usually just move on.
Now you've recorded the whole get up in your own little house there.
Yeah, everything, and then we're gonna I'll have to send it out for master, just because I want everything to be, essentially on the same level. There's not one thing overpowering the other, and then obviously for production. But right now, I don't know. Initially, it's gonna come out on iTunes and Amazon, and depending on the need there, I was also thinking about selling some on the website. When the album's done, we'll launch a website, so you can do direct buy. And if the need is there, or the desire people want the physical copy, or we talked about a vinyl pressing or something high speed like that, then we'll look at doing it.
Yeah, a limited thing maybe.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. But again, with no financial backing, the last thing you want to do is spend all your.
You mean you don't have Virgin Records just knocking at the door right now?
5,000 hard copies, and I sell 10. So I'd have a lot of my own stuff probably used as coasters, but I think it's as far as in terms of what I'd be happy with selling. I mean, for the budget I've been working with, anything would be fine. It's just fun to have your stuff out there,
Yeah, exactly. So. What's been the biggest inspirations behind the music? What music do you draw from? What bands maybe inspired you? What sounds?
Yeah, well, definitely the country sound, I think, is what's always resonated with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, growing up and listening to country music, and you know, I will say some of the older school stuff that I know and we all love.
You mean country music?
Actual country.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's different stations for things like pop.
But
Southern
pop.
I truly like, you know, most music. I can't say all. There's music out there that we all.
Well, because I know that for a fact that you were a pretty big Beatles fan.
Oh, the Beatles were, and that's where it all comes back to. You know, having my first guitar and being terrible at playing it. You know, I couldn't play, and I tried for a year. My parents got me that guitar in like the late '90s for my birthday, and you know, wouldn't let me plug in. It was a little Samick electric guitar until it didn't sound like shit. You know what I mean?
Here are the rules.
Yeah.
You can play this thing without it plugged into the amp until you can play in tune.
And I couldn't get anywhere with it until I got a Beatles songbook. And you know, my folks were huge Beatles fans, and I think that kind of, you know, translated to the first time I heard it, I was just totally addicted. So when I had that motivation, you know, I started playing with a purpose instead of just sitting there going, I can learn Twinkle Twinkle in 2 weeks. You know?
Exactly.
So once I learned, I need to know how to play that chord if I want to play this song, then that turns into 3 chords and 10 chords, and pretty soon that started kind of, you know, from that right away I started writing songs. You know how good they were. I couldn't tell you. And then you know, in high school with Chuck and Mary and Zach and the Pams. You know, you know, that was a ska band. You know, so diversity, that we go from the Beatles to ska to country. I mean, I love a good song, and that's all the only real qualifier for me was it sound good to me. And but you know, music is a funny thing because everybody's a critic. Everybody.
Oh yeah.
And we all love music, and across the world, places where they've never seen an iPod. You know, they sing and dance and beat drums. And
they've been pounding on drums for 100,000 years.
Exactly. So there's no. That, you know, there's no, it's a big judging field, you know, like everybody has their own opinion on what's good and what's not, and I'm just one of those people that can honestly say I'm up for anything as long as it sounds good, you know. But that was definitely the start of it, and I did notice a lot of my songs were turning out very Beatle-y, you know, when I first started writing, but I think that happens. You know, it's good to be inspired.
Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do? It's what you draw from, you know.
Right,
so your big influence at the beginning is the Beatles. Of course, you hear a song, you're like, I kind of want to make something that doesn't sound like this, but sounds like this a little bit. So you got kind of the same.
And like they say, it's, you know, it's flattering to duplicate. And you know, I really care about that music. It was awesome to me. And so naturally, when you just like idolize a band, you know, your stuff kind of tends to sound close to that. But then, you know, from that, if you want to call that the start point, there's been a lot of other acts along the way. Certainly Johnny Cash. I like simple music. You know, there's something about just a guitar and maybe a faint drum and you know, just a simple
and a voice.
Yeah, I like it to not sound overproduced. I mean, the funny thing is when you go back to Johnny Cash or some of these guys, a lot of his cuts are just him and a guitar. You know what I mean? And that's the kind of music that I think is not only good for any application. You know, you can fire Johnny Cash up in any setting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People will be like, oh, I love Johnny Cash.
Exactly.
But everybody loves Johnny Cash. Everybody says Johnny Cash he's my driving. It's like it's just to me, another one of those blocks along the way. And, you know, then as far as like influences go, it's you know, it's tough to pin it down for me, like as far as where the music itself comes from. It's hard for me to write about actual life experience directly, like a ballad or an actual beginning to end story.